Phil with Mastercraft. And as promised, I said yesterday that we were going to do a recap for our 40K Fight Club teams practice. And this is just going to be a little breakdown of how we do things for 40K Fight Club, then as well as what you could maybe implement for your team. I'm not saying this is the right way or wrong way to do it, but I will say that there is some significant benefits towards it, and we found it to be very beneficial. The overall premise was all the players that were available, which was 6 out of the 8, met up at one of our buddies' house that had enough space. We brought over a train, we brought over the play mats, we brought over the bases. We had set up 3 different layouts, the ones that we felt like can be some of the most impactful and to the armies that we were taking. And then we also brought some extra armies as well. So I brought Custodes and Death Guard. One of our guys brought Inari and World Eaters. Another person brought CSM Bile and Necrons and Shadow Demons. And then we had Chaos Knights down there. We also had Ashram Militarum. And then we had a couple list variants that we were toying around with in terms of just having conversations. So the plan was to get as many games in as possible. And these were not full games. These were very, very quick games where we tried to play the first 2 to 3 rounds. And at that point, we made a determination where we felt the matchup would be for those last 2 phases or last 2 rounds. This doesn't mean that turn 4 and 5 aren't super important. They are. But the reason we met up and played is, one, to collect data. We wanted to see matchups into stuff that we hadn't seen yet. New Death Guard being one of them, new World Eaters being one of them, Shadow Legion being one of them. We wanted, for those that maybe didn't have as many reps into those, to see where we're at. And then while we were there, we updated our teams matrix, which is something I've talked about before that we do for 40K. It's a teams matrix that I've done a lot of work in Excel on, that auto-populates, auto-scores, auto-updates, does everything for you very, very nicely. I like it, and I like Excel. I'm not necessarily the greatest with it, but I do enjoy toying around with it, and it's quite fun, which might be the nerdiest thing I've said, right behind playing Warhammer 40K and paying money to go do it. So overall, it was a good experience. We were looking to play multiple rounds in the shortest way possible, and we had points where we were coaching each other at the different boards, giving advice on what we thought the best option was, worst option was, and why we made certain decisions on both sides. So that was hugely impactful because we have some very good players on 40K Fight Club. When you hear their opinion in a non-competitive setting where it's like, we all obviously want to do well, we want to see where our armies land, but we also want good feedback from people that we trust. So there was a lot of great communication, great conversations that really, really helped myself specifically going forward. Now, what is the main reason that we do this besides collecting data? Like that is super important. But also, as I've said before, not everyone has the opportunity to play a massive amount of games over and over again. This may be like once or twice a month. And if we can consolidate it into one day and jam as many games in there as possible, it means we can collect as much data as possible. So like there are matchups that we haven't seen before that we really need to play into. And it can be beneficial to see those matchups before you go to a team's tournament and you're like, oh, I did not calculate this correctly. And I will say that for some of our individuals, after seeing an army for the first time or something like that, it's not that we need to necessarily change our list or do anything crazy, but we do have an understanding of how that army functions now. And that actually makes the biggest difference when we go into playing them again. So for example, we just shroud Terminators for Death Guard. Once you realize, like, for some detachments, like Mortarian's Anvil, right? Like they just pick 2 units, those are afflicted now, and that's at the beginning of the battle round. So now if the Death Guard player is going first, that means I select those 2 at the beginning of the battle round, and now I can deep strike off those 2. So maybe a player knowing that they are now going second, which is kind of a negative in that scenario, has to screen out even more so because they don't know which 2 you're going to pick. Versus if Anvil goes second and they select at the beginning of the battle round which 2, well then you can hide those 2 units that got picked out, and then you can screen out with others, which makes a big difference for a lot of these armies that rely on maybe only 1 unit or 2 units to do their screening in the backfield. So yeah, Death Guard as a whole, very, very interesting right now, and you kind of need to see them on the board hopefully before you play them in a tournament for real. So each one of those things definitely matters and makes a huge impact for all our players, and it's good to see new armies prior to that point. Overall, after that, the thing that we really like to focus on is terrain layouts and missions, right? So if we talk about the 4 missions that we're doing and the terrain layouts we're doing, we want to see our worst matchups, right? So we are purposely pairing like our worst matchup pairing here at this when we practiced last night, because we wanted to see, one, even though it's your worst pairing, can you claw it back, right? Can you bring it closer to a 10-10 with some knowledge, some information, and then be able to carry it forward from there? So there's a lot of lessons learned in terms of opinions that we gave each other, and like, hey, if we actually have to put you into this matchup, like, can you keep it to a 10? These are the things that I would do if I were you versus what you could do. And each one of those things makes a difference for sure. So overall, just something to think about when you have an opportunity to eat. It doesn't have to be with everyone. Yes, it'd be great if we had all 8 guys, but I am under no illusion that we all do this as a hobby. And we are trying to find the most amount of time to accomplish that hobby. And if it means a day that not everyone's there, that's okay. But if you can get 4, 6, 7 guys, and maybe you bring in a buddy to make it the 8th, if that 8th player is not available, those things make a huge difference for you in terms of getting meaningful reps in. So don't be too concerned with going 5 rounds. Don't be too concerned with it being perfect. Be more concerned with collecting as much data as possible, because playing back-to-back games and stress testing your list for anyone that's played in a tournament is completely different, right? Because you see inconsistencies or problems with the list when you play it back-to-back versus, playing it once a month or twice a month where you don't get to see those repetitions into a lot of different lists. So like, I played against 3 different armies, and I was able to see the list that I was running and how it functioned into 3 different armies, vastly different armies. And all those things make a huge difference for me. One, offering advice for the guys that are going to play against some iteration of my list, and then also for those individuals, for myself, like making decisions on my list in the future, because WTC is different, and I will honestly state that I don't get many reps into WTC terrain. So when we have the opportunity to, I try to maximize it as much as possible. So it was beneficial, and I'm looking forward to a teams tournament. So everyone that is coming out for 40K Fight Club, the teams tournament here at the end of the month, I can't wait to meet y'all. Please just feel free, come up, say hello to myself and Lane, who will both be there. Ask us any questions you like. We're going to keep pushing out teams content as we get ready for this teams tournament. And we really, really appreciate y'all taking the time to watch and comment and like and do all those things. Don't forget, victory isn't given. It's forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercrafted.